Good morning, everyone. A pleasant good morning wherever you are this morning. We thank you so much for joining us. It is To The Point for today, Monday, September 28th, 2015. I am Brenda Batiste. It's a pleasure to be in your company once more. We have some special guests here with us this morning, some folks charged with an awesome responsibility, that of stimulating, raising awareness, and generating conversations about our National Sustainable Development Plan. We say good morning to Mr. William Joseph. He is the Deputy Chairman of the committee. We say good morning to Mrs. Joan Purcell. She represents civil society. And a special good morning to Mr. Judd Cadet. He is the youth representative on the committee. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Brenda.
It is a pleasure to have you all here. Especially you, Ms. Purcell. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's great, and it's great to have you a part of this. Mr. Joseph, I'm going to start with you as the Deputy Chair. Talk to us about the vision, the focus, and the steps of this National Development Plan.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and very pleased for the opportunity to share and to interact on this important subject. If you don't mind, I think I'm going to choose a route that's a little wider than your question,
No problem.
and get the answer in that context. I think listeners might well, and viewers, recall that towards the end of May, there was an official launch of the National Plan 2030, at which time two structures were indicated for doing the work to cover this plan. One is called a steering committee, to which we belong, and that is a governance body. And the other is a technical working group, and that is to say the other professional people who specialize in various aspects of life and so on, who are actually going to be involved in writing the plan.
Okay.
So let me say immediately that as we speak this morning, there is no plan. Not a letter has been written that may be purported to be or said to be a plan. There is no plan. What we want to do is to talk about the ground that we've covered since May, in the sense that the foundation, the seeds that we've been planting, that will take us to a point where we go to the public to begin to receive from the public their views regarding what they would like to see in the plan. And the plan doesn't begin to get written until the public begins to speak. So that's very important. So, first point. The second point has to do with the scope of the plan. Now, this is not going to be an economic development plan. It is much broader and wider than that. The plan is going to cover, as far as we understand it, the economy is going to cover the state of the Ghanaian society, is going to cover education, national reconciliation. Several issues are going to be covered. The environment and so on, these things, culture, these things are going to be addressed within the plan. So it is not something that is designed as an economic salvation for one entity or the other.
Okay.
It is much broader than that. So the last point I would make by way of introduction is to say a brief word regarding the type of plan that we're talking about. Many people might well know that there's a tendency to have very big plans, 200 pages and so on and so on and so on. The way we see it, the plan we are envisioning must meet certain basic characteristics, criteria. One of them has to be that it must be solutions driven. The second thing is that it must, I'm reiterating this one, come from the bowels of the people, and therefore it must not be intimidatory. So in other words, it must not be with a technical jargon and so on that people understand.
Simple language.
That's the point. Very, very important, right? So then that gives us now a picture of the type that we're talking about. There might be other components we need not worry the public about. It's the technical analysis and so on and so on. If you go into the donor community, you might need some of that stuff. But we do not propose to come to the public with an overload of technical and stuff and academic stuff. We want to come to the public and public to feed us on the main content and the solutions as this, and then we go away and them structure them into what we will call the plan. So those are the preliminary state comments I wish to make, and we will come to issues of consultation and so on thereafter.
I was very excited to see the youth representative, because I'm sit here when you talk to you get this feedback, things are thrown at them. So we do things for and not include them. So Judd, you are the youth representative on this committee. It's been experienced so far, and tell us just what you hope will come from this. Some of the things that youth would like, some of the things that you expect that will come up in these series of consultations.
I'm very thankful for the opportunity to represent the young persons on the plan, on the steering committee. I must say most of the ideas that are from the young persons, which we know carries which is like the major stakeholders. However, we want to see in this plan that it takes in consideration the past, the present, and the future. In other words, the plan should be very current. So, and we know that that is going to happen based on how the steering committee is made up, and we know that the people has a responsibility to hold the people that is responsible for implementing this plan. So we're going to hold them responsible to that. And as young persons, we want to see this plan creates opportunities, much more opportunities. We need to take into consideration a lot of things. We need to take into consideration employment, education, and we have the issue with the environment, which is a critical thing. Culture, we hold very strongly. We're going to the future, globalization. You have to understand the fact that a lot of people is going to come into Grenada tourism. How are we going to maintain our heritage, our culture? We have to ensure that we stick to that, and we want to see the plan reflects that. More opportunities for young persons, youth empowerment. So this is just technically what we really want to see the plan highlights, and we know that this is going to happen.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Just a footnote to say this, that we, in our minds, are very clear that this plan we're talking about is essentially for and about the young people of Grenada. I mean, of course, all citizens, but primarily for the benefit of the young people of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Secondly, we, because of that concern and that priority that we've set surrounding the plan and its work and so on, the steering committee has decided to co-opt 10 or 12 young people. They're not formal members of the steering committee, but we believe it's a great opportunity for them to sit around our conversations as auditors, and that they learn about these interactions and so on, and how ideas are tabled and traded off and negotiated among people and so on. And as a result of that learning, that they themselves would be able to assist when we come to this question of public communications, especially helping young people to understand the language of the plan and so on and so on.
That's almost like a coaching process.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Mrs. Purcell, do you think this would require a whole reorganization and reorientation of our economic and social system?
It definitely would require a change of mind of what governance is all about, because we are calling people to be responsible. We are calling on Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique to take responsibility for governance, not just a group of elected officials, but the whole country, women, men, youth, rural, urban, all, involved in developing a vision. It's a vision statement, broad vision statement, which incorporates, as Willie said, economic, social, cultural, environmental, every aspect, sustainable development. And as representing civil society, the track record of civil society has always been people participation, people being involved in the process of their own development so that they could be empowered in that process and can hold leaders accountable. I also want to say that the initial thought for this plan came from the social partners in their work with the social protocol and the social and the government was advised that it was time that Grenada had a national plan that was not just a short-term 5-year, 3-year, which suited our political system, but we wanted something that transcended, the electoral process and would hold all leaders and government officials accountable to the people who produced something that resonated with them, that resembled them, that they saw themselves in. And so you can understand, Brenda, this is very exciting for civil society because we are the non-state, non-governmental community development organization, the producing organizations who are the heart of the country and who indeed would want their voices to be involved in this process.
So it sounds like it's very multidimensional in its approach and multi-sectoral as well.
Yes.
In fact, there are 12 different stakeholders represented on the steering committee, 11 or 12, and that gives an idea as to the extent of participation. But that is that is one thing. The bigger issue really is the ownership of the plan.
Right.
And the way we see it is that this plan has to be owned by the people of Grenada.
So how do we get to feel it, to feel that oneness with it?
Right. And therefore,
we don't want to feel like the Constitution review process. So talk to us about the process.
So we're going down the road, you see. And that is why one of the fundamentals behind this thing is this question of winning public confidence. Public confidence.
Critical.
In how we approach this thing, in what we are saying to the public we would like them to do. This is not a case where we are going with scripts and say to the people, you take this. This is a case where we're going to say, when we start the public consultation, and there'll be several rounds of the public consultations, right? And the first round, we go with a blank slate. And we encourage people in the communities to write on the slate. Okay, we go back and we frame it into some logical, coherent kind of thing, make sense of it. And then you go back and say to people, that's wrong too now. This is what we've
come up with.
You get changes and adjustments and so on. And you go back a third time for the approval. So the approval, before this plan goes to the Minister for Economic Development and the Cabinet and the Parliament, for acceptance and so on. It is to be approved by the people.
Okay.
See? But let me say this also, that this question of plan ownership is critical. Because one of the implications of that is that it is hopefully is going to change the relationship between people and government. Now remember, let's step back a little bit. We became independent 40 odd years ago. At that time, nobody taught us anything about government, about governance, about development, about service to nation. The British didn't teach us that.
We were handed things.
Right?
Like
so we've been groping in the dark.
40 years
for 40
in the wilderness.
So now we have a great opportunity with all of the intelligence that we've developed among our people,
and the
young and old, and experiences, to say, listen, let us shape our next 40 years. Based on the learnings, and Judd made the point about the foresight and the hindsight and so on and so on. Learning from the past, envisioning what kind of society we would want. And so that lastly, let me say this. One of the most exciting aspects of this for me is the prospect of the transformation of the Grenadian society. Because, and I have been referring to this on the last two occasions I did, and I will do it again. You listen to Prime Minister Rowley on the night of his victory, and one of the things he said, in fact, it was the only statement of policy he announced. He said that we are going to be interfering with the school curriculum. That means they're going to go to young people because they need to to create a new type of Trinidadian citizen. We need to do the same in Grenada.
Yeah.
We need to go to our 10 and 12-year-olds and train them up, expose them to these issues of governance and government and politics and so on and so on. So by the time they become 18, which doesn't take long, we have a new mindset, a different mindset, a different outlook of, among important segments of the population to help us to achieve the overall changes that we want to achieve for Grenada.
As we get into this, Mrs. Purcell, are we going to be like having a look at previous national development plans or
Definitely.
the attempts at those that we may have had
Definitely.
as we move with this?
Yes, definitely. In 2008, there was
2007.
2007, there was a plan, national plan, and later on in 2011, there was a review, and these
There
plans
must be a
have been.
couple we can't find either.
Yes, and there are a number of, even heard references of the revolutionary
PRG1,
plan.
yeah.
So, you know,
It was
there
for
are.
30 years, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
there are plans in Grenada aplenty. But we are saying that we would want to encourage the people of Grenada to become really involved in this process. And we know there's some fears, skepticism, but doubts. But it is an opportunity that is being offered. And it's only as we take a hold of this opportunity, we can make it what we would desire it to be. And that's my appeal, that persons would see this as an opportunity, another opportunity to develop a vision that reflects the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique.
Jody, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just to expound a bit on what Ms. Purcell would have said. A couple weeks ago, I was having a conversation with a young person, and I was letting them know about the national plan. And I was like saying that, you know, I'm tired hearing about plan. You know, there have been so many planning stages and so many plans in Grenada that we're not implementing anything. And I have to convince them why this plan is different. Because this plan will be totally people-centered. And they have the authority and the responsibility to ensure that this plan is implemented. And I think that is one of the uniqueness and one of the things that I think people should embrace more about this plan.
Right. Well said. Well said. As you talk about winning public confidence and all of that, I must ask this question. What is the role of the central authority, government, if you will, in this process?
Well, the government is an equal partner around the table. The government only has one representative, actually, on the steering committee, so that I think the best way to put it is that the government is an equal partner in the work that we're doing.
Right.
It will have certain obligations because it is government to provision and to provide budgets and so on for the work to be done, things of that kind. But beyond that, there is no, how to put it, the government does not have an influential role in the work to be done. The government doesn't shape this. And as you raise this, because when we say government, we see political parties.
Yes.
And in this case, so let me also introduce this thing. Now, learning from our experiences, and especially what transpired with the Constitution Review arrangements, this time around, we have taken applied the wisdom really to this issue and have proposed a protocol to the political parties. Yes, regarding their involvement and attitude towards this plan. All right, we have virtually negotiated the text of it now with them, and the hope is that we could sign this on October the 1st. So it's going to represent a very, very significant departure from the old antagonistic adversarial thing, this interest and that interest and so on and so on.
Because that's where the breakdown would come.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have in that protocol is that, and I think the public should, I invite the public to reflect on this, is that we are saying that ideas is what we need. We need ideas. We don't need the labels. So the parties are free to make their recommendations and proposals to the technical working group, to the steering committee. We will not record idea A as coming from party X or party Y.
Okay.
We are recording ideas. We are accepting ideas. So that, for example, when we go to St. Patrick in the consultations, and some alert and sensible and concerned citizen proposes A, B, and C, which finds its way into the plan, we don't say that this came from citizen so-and-so in St. Patrick, do we? So in the same way, we are not going to say that idea A came from party X and so on. We are dealing with ideas for the benefit of the country and not ideas that promote political interests. So it's one of the points of excitement for me, the day that they sign on this thing, and therefore we could then use that instrument, the fact of their signing and agreeing to this thing, to help the public to grow its own confidence regarding the approach to the plan and some of the values that are built into the plan.
Do you think the very personality that this engagement develops could really help shape how we engage each other in Grenada? And is that part of the thrust of this as well?
Yes, indeed.
Because you notice we don't talk about anything. We keep fighting and shouting.
Yes, yes. And definitely dealing with fundamental issues that touch our lives. If we can begin to listen to each other and hear from each other, and and put this into a context where it becomes a part of a grand vision that will, an ideology almost of life, of what we believe in, where we want to go. I believe this will go a long way in changing that, adversarial and the contending voices that we have. We have high hopes that this, and of course it's a grand vision that we can begin to change minds. And we know it's not easy, but we definitely see it as a beginning. And the more people buy into this, the more successful the plan will be.
And we have to start and we have to steer the course.
Yes.
We can't keep jumping off.
Yes.
Or there are some behaviors that might want to make us jump off.
Yes.
But we have to deal with it. And I'm happy to hear that there's some little code of ethics or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I say in code of ethics for, political parties and so on. Because
and steering committee members too.
Right.
So that we use this whole process in a responsible manner. It's not about tearing people together.
Or even exuberance or over-exuberance. That would get itself out there and, so.
All ideas are there,
That is really great to hear. And there seems to be some fair measure of seriousness with this, because I see we have a national secretariat.
Yes.
That it's headed by a very, very talented public servant, Mr. Raphael Joseph. You're Dr. Raphael Joseph yet? So that is very, very good. All right. So we take your phone calls, those of you who have questions for these wonderful group of Grenadians here, and the phone's ringing already. Good morning. Welcome to the Point.
Good morning.
Caller, I'm so sorry. I cut you off. I'm so sorry. Call back. Yes. So, what are we looking at in terms of timelines for this?
Yes, very important. So we started in earnest in June as such, the first meeting of the steering committee. Our brief is that we should try and bring this home within about 15 months.
Okay.
We might overrun a month or two.
Is that reasonable?
Depending on what it is reasonable.
It's doable?
It is
about
doable.
6 months of consultation.
Solid consultation.
Solid
That's the heart of it.
consultation.
That is the heart of it. Right? And you see, the consultations are going to be at 3 different levels. What we call the general public, which will not have the parties there at all. There will be separate consultations with political parties.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and what is called the public consultations would be for the average citizen in not the parties.
Great.
The parties will have their separate consultations with the steering committee and technical working group.
Okay.
They can send 1 million different proposals in. They can come 3 times, 4 times. It doesn't matter. Where access is unlimited as such.
Right.
And then we're going to have what we call stakeholder interest group consultations. Okay, so the 3 different types of consultations that we propose to have.
I think we have the caller on the line now. Good morning. Welcome to the Point. Missing that caller. Caller, feel free to call again, 435-2041. That is the access number. And those of you I think we're getting the call again. So let's see if we have better luck this time. Good morning. Welcome to the Point.
Yes, I read the man on the left. I read your book, sir. Very nice.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Sorry?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, right. And I know Mrs. Pussell. Okay, she's a good lady. Yeah, I don't know the guy in the middle there.
He's a youth representative on the steering committee. He's Judd Cadet.
And I know Brenda. Well, but I want to ask the guy on the left, a question. Why did you all have to destroy the NDC party?
Right. We're on the National Development Plan this morning, Sustainable Development Plan this morning. And we want to get all parties involved, civil society, political parties, NGOs, the private sector, youth. That's what we're on this morning,
Yes.
Yes.
We're not going down that road this morning. Those roads are now blocked with very big stones. All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Point.
Good morning, Donna.
Good morning.
Yeah, I listened to the plans from this committee, the Central Committee as such.
But they're not a central committee, they're a steering committee.
Well, yes, there's a government, there's a party himself because they've created plans for the government to implement. What I would like to know is that when the Central Committee put out the plan and it goes to Cabinet, could Cabinet change anything in it? Is that so? If another government come in, what is not registered with the plan, they bound to commit it to the plan because they did not register it when it's a new party form and they win the election. You can't tell them what to do. They don't have to follow your plan, and you cannot hold them to it because then they sign up to that. What will happen then? For instance, if a new party form and you form the government, your plan is...
Right, great question. Thanks a lot. Thanks for participating, Mr. Joseph.
Yes. Well, a couple of points. One is that the political parties that are now exist in Grenada, operate in Grenada, have fair opportunity to contribute towards the framing of the plan.
Right.
That's the point I was making just a minute ago. Once the plan would have been approved by the people of Grenada, it is to be submitted by the steering committee to the Minister for Development. There is no opportunity, there is no right of interference in that plan by the government of Grenada. So, whatever the people approve, that is the plan. The plan then, once it is in place, would be available to every political party in terms of their manifestos.
Right.
So
it
let
will
us
be laid on the table of Parliament.
and so on. Yes, thank you. So once the plan is in place, and let us say you have elections a year after the plan would have been approved, every political party in the country has access to the proposals in those plans. The party might choose, the plan might have 30 different priorities. A party might say, realistically, I could only attempt 10 of these in a 5-year period. So I'm going to indicate which 10 and propose those to the people, including how I intend to implement them, because there must be some leeway for parties in terms of the implementation.
It
but the
concerns seem to be for
goals...
disregard or change, but based on what you're describing here, that can't happen.
No, absolutely not.
Right. And just a reminder that we the people who are approving the plan are the same people who send you to be our representatives.
That's right.
Just a reminder. Good morning. Welcome to The Point.
Yeah, morning greetings, Sister Brenda.
Good morning.
To your virtuous guest you got this morning. You know, love to see a youth in the middle there, so it gives such an impression. You know, now the plan. We are a people that came from a long distance, as the madam said just now, to respect to her. 40 years, 41 years, you know, and before. So we looking now at where all the leaders who came before make those mistakes. Not that they didn't know what they had to do. They knew. They all. Just like today, the doctor, he knew what we need, what the country need to move forward, to discipline our people, to educate our people, to take the school as it's the Mr. said just now, Mr. Joseph in Trinidad, change the curriculum. Because when I look at the teachings that come down to us today, it's just we have to go from a spiritual level to really comprehend. And if we don't go that level, we shall never get the knowledge of how to overstand we own inner concept of our life, because this is what it depends on. I see we had a revolution, and before the revolution, Mr. Gary had run things. But if you look at the transition that take place after Mr. Gary had come down, then the people came as one people. And then if you look what in the revolution, then we already had the plan to take this land to where we're talking about now. You know what I'm saying? So, but what we're looking at is the deception. And this deception come because our people very easy to get carried away with promises. Just like America promised us how much they would help us and do the necessary thing, but we hadn't a leader or a government in place to press those things and ensure that we get what was ours. And up to this day, we owing them still instead of them owing us. And we
all right. Thanks for your contribution. Have a good one. All right. I think it's concerned with promises that are made by leaders and so on. It's because, as I think Ms. Person mentioned it earlier, this plan is the people taking charge of how they want their lives and their future to be shaped, you know? So I think that kind of negates it. But then also we have to be realistic, and people ought to be thinking in their minds, okay, yeah, everything sounds good. All right, good people, good reputable people and so on. But then what is our track record? What is the modus operandi, the state of maturity, really and truly? All those things would cause people to be a bit cynical. We have to be honest.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, a lot depends on our willingness to trust ourselves.
Yes, indeed.
Right? We have to get to the point where we begin to trust ourselves.
And trust each other.
And trust, well, of course.
Because there is a deficit of trust.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what makes the relationships break down.
A and
the
B,
mistrust.
we then have to also encourage ourselves to cultivate new mindsets, new ways of looking at life and society, right? And that's why this aspect of this addressing the state of the Ghanaian society is so very, very important. And alongside that, this question of what we do about our cultural standards and expectations and values, because if we don't pay attention to these things that really anchor us as people and cause us to be nation, this culture that really shapes the thing. If we don't, then in fact there's nothing that we will be able to claim 10, 15 years down the road. So one of the foundations of this thing is about anchoring the society, and by extension families and so on, and alongside that putting the Grenadian culture in its proper place where we protect it, we encourage it, we propagate it, and we manage it. It's very, very, very important.
We have another call on the line. Good morning. Welcome to the point.
Good morning, everybody. There is no doubt in my mind that the plan will be workable, so I support it 100%. But I have one little question, just a simple question here. Do you know any other islands, like in the OACS, or if not beyond, who has implemented such a plan and is working okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller.
I think Jamaica has done. We have on our steering committee Mr. Dunson Campbell, and he actually participated in the development of a national plan in Jamaica.
That's great.
Whether it went the exact same route, I am not sure, but he has shared often on the development of a national plan and its involvement of people, and the fact that political parties were obliged to follow the plan. Of course, choosing their own priorities, as we just said, but it was because it was a people's plan, and so far, according to him, it has indeed worked.
Judge, just to pick up on the point Mr. Joseph was making before we took the break, when you look out, you're young, you're Grenadian. How do you identify yourself as Grenadian? What are the traits or the things that you would spot to make you uniquely Grenadian? Let's say you go to university and you stand to tell a whole room of students who you are from Grenada. What about you? What about us?
Well, one of the things about Grenada is that we are resilient people. And I think that is something that we generally are, in the fact that when you look at the fact of the revolution, I mean, after that, we gain ourselves and we look now, we're trying to build back. I mean, that's how we are generally. If you look at us again, we are a very small country, but we are almost in everything. Look at a small country, just like 100,000 people. But look at Kirani James' performance at the Olympic. So one of the things again that we naturally do stand out, and the fact that we are resilient people, and we look to bring ourselves together to ensure for the betterment of each other. I think that is one of the things that actually stands out among Grenadians.
Okay. We have a caller here. Good morning. Welcome to The Point.
Hello. Good morning, Brenda. How are you doing this morning?
I am great. Thank you.
And greetings to your guests. I have no doubt that this plan will work, but it can only work if we put serious structures in place. One of those is we need to have constitutional teeth to that. Yes, we can carve out laudable plans, and knowing who we are as Grenadians, and knowing how fickle we can be, our history has not been kind in that regard to trust, and trusting ourselves and trusting others. We are subjected to the whims and fancy of the politicians. Make no doubt about that, and the political parties at various times. And in order for the plan to work, there needs to be some constitutional mandate that if it is breached, if it is violated, the people will be empowered to do what they have to do. We can't have some nice plans expecting people to abide by it. We have had in our country where the Constitution says clearly that one should not be aligned to any other country. And we have had people in our parliament been there for over 9 years who have allegiance to other countries. So we need to have constitutional teeth to make this thing work. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day, Mr. Joseph. Constitutional mandate to the plan.
I think this issue has come up. And I believe we haven't canvassed it at the level of the steering committee. But certainly my own thinking tells me that as we engage in the consultations and hear from people, that the people themselves are going to say, we need certain arrangements to safeguard what it is that we say we want.
A common thread, yes.
That's come from people. So there will, and I am already seeing it, that in this, what we're talking about, this new relationship between people and government and people and party, well, in this case government, because the Constitution does not deal with parties. People and government, that there will be implications for constitutional reform. but that then the people will say precisely what they want to see. So when we say, for example, the plan then goes to the parliament to receive the parliamentary approval there, then we ask, what is the status beyond that?
Right.
Is the parliament going to pass it into law or not? You see, so these are things now that the people must say, must direct and instruct at the level of the consultations.
Okay. We have another caller on the line. 1 minute. Good morning. Welcome to The Point.
Good morning to you all. You all need to be applauded for this step which you all have taken. This is the step in the new direction. And it is the best step right now for us. We need new things, new dimensive things. And really and truly, if we all come to this place of wisdom and understanding, this is where we need to go. And I wait to God that we take these steps into consideration, because this will bring us forward. This is a new thing. We all need new thing now. Not the same old thing over and over again. We need new dimension to go new places. And this is the step in the right direction. I applaud you.
All right. Thank you, caller. Thanks for your participation. New thinking, new steps, multidimensional approaches. Isn't that the way of the world?
Yes.
Why should we be left behind?
Indeed. Indeed, Brenda. We are moving into a new dimension, new level of thinking. Our world is complex, it's difficult, it's global.
Yeah.
So even while we think locally, we have to act globally. And we have to find new ways of doing some of the old things we were doing. And one of the first things is taking responsibility. Freedom has responsibility. If we are to maintain our freedom in the way, and it's been eroded over the years, if we are to maintain that freedom, it's a burden. Freedom is a burden because it demands some responsibility from the citizenry. And I am calling on the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique to step forward. Despite fears, doubts, and all of that, that's the only way we can, as we start listening to each other.
Indeed.
Yeah, may I just
and
add,
breaking that cycle of...
Let's just take this call quickly,
Yeah,
just
sure,
in case
sure.
they hang up on us. Good morning. Welcome to The Point.
Good morning, lady. Hello?
Good morning. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what this subject is really about, but I just come and I was just watching the TV,
And do me a favor, if you can listen to us on the phone and just mute the television or the radio, whatever you have on, and make your contribution. Thank you.
On the phone, okay?
Sure, I'm holding.
All right. So, I come in and I was just watching the TV, and I heard a lady was saying, Grenadian people need to take plenty responsibility and to make Grenada a better place, right? I took good side with that, But one thing I find in my country, which is Grenada, I'm from Grenada, but I do a little traveling, Trinidad. One thing I find in my country is to say something for the rights, people again show for that. You have a big problem. Because not too long ago, some men were doing some work, and I pass and I make a little contribution which would be helpful to them. And I get to real fight down for that. What you know and what you this is the mentality we Grenadians have. They feel because you're a small man or you're a small person, you cannot give no advice at all. And I've been noting that in the country a very long time ago. Not now. I born a Grenadian, I grew a Grenadian, I'm still a Grenadian, regardless to where I go. And this is one thing I find people in Grenada not genuine towards that. Because right now I'm making a little cleanup around the environment. And people are concerned about the country anymore. They will buy a snack, they will throw the bag right in the drain there. Well, we have a problem with that. And the lady...
All right. Well, thanks for setting a good example.
Yeah.
And I trust that you participate in the consultation as they go around. So the national plan is about hearing all voices, not just some, and even getting people who disagree to respectfully do so.
I wanted to say that one of the important aspects of our work at this stage, even before we get into the the building of the plan itself is this question of the framing of a vision for the plan. In this sense, a vision for Grenada 20 years down the road. What would we like to see this place look like? And we need, so we have been addressing this issue at the level of steering committee, trying to formulate a draft vision statement with the intention of going to the public with that. Now you see the importance and significance of the vision statement, because that is what is going to create the passion, excite people, right, to want to participate, to want to contribute in building this plan. So the vision thing is very critical, and for this purpose, there are many different ways of approaching it. One I find very useful, which has scriptural authority behind it, is to say, look, let us understand that we're dealing with three dimensions of the thing. One is the foresight. The foresight is really what we just talked about, the vision. The second element is the hindsight. Okay, the hindsight says, let us look at those things in our history that have caused us problems. You see, because we need to take them into account to keep us safe. If we allow some of that stuff to come back into play, we are not going to be able to move forward.
Yes.
And then you come to the insight level, which is to say, what are the critical details that we need to nail down, we need to have in this plan? You see, and that's where a lot of the action is going to be in the public consultations. The insights that people have for changing the Ghanaian society, for lifting the Ghanaian economy, and so on, so that we have something, a holistic package now that we can say and expect would begin to transform Grenada from what it is now to what we expect it to be.
Just to pick up on the word packaging and talking about, doing, old things in new ways, because we have we cannot ignore this over 60% under 30 population that we have. How are we going to be packaging this to attract, young persons?
Well, as Mr. Joseph said, is that one of the key things, the plan will be, although it would be beneficial to everyone, but we know that this plan is going to be really for a lot of young persons. In the fact that based on the population size. Now, young persons have the opportunity to add a voice on the plan itself. For example, I would have established a committee of young persons in which what we do, we look at how we want to see Grenada in the next 15 years. Now, these young persons go back to the youth groups. So we channel it through the youth groups, we channel it through the schools, we channel it through every sector that we know that young persons are actively engaged to ensure that they properly buy into this plan.
What about the use of technology?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. This is really one of the key things as well, ensuring that we use the medium that young persons are actively engaged in. In fact, the steering committee as well is working on the Facebook page and using the social media to ensure that we get
and music, of course.
Yes,
and music,
yes. Yeah, jingles, competitions, all of that. Good morning. Welcome to The Point.
Hello, good morning. Yes, Mr. Joseph, why should a few people decide the vision? Why not the vision? Why shouldn't it come from the inside then, in the inside stage?
Remember, be mindful that I said a draft. So there's nothing wrong in this instance with us saying, listen, here's the thinking. Tell me, do you agree? Do you or do you not agree? So I don't think it shuts the door. In fact, if the intention was to shut the door, we wouldn't go out with it, and we wouldn't describe it as a draft at all. So I don't think any harm is intended in terms of excluding the public. In fact, we cannot finalize the vision unless the people say we agree that this is the vision.
Right.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's helpful to start with something.
So just
You
give them
must
this
have a
platform.
framework. You must have a
exactly.
framework.
You must have that framework.
You
in
must
which you
have a
work
framework.
with.
It has to come from somewhere, and then you move forward. Yeah. What do you like to see happen most in these engagements, Ms. Purcell?
I would hope that Grenadians would take the opportunity to listen to each other, to share respectfully, as you said, and participate, come out, because so often we are not willing to pay the price for change. Even to come to a meeting, whether it's in a schoolhouse or community center, that takes work, getting up, getting out of your house. And I know that's been our besetting sin in terms of consultations.
Yeah.
People do not come out. So the simple act of coming out, and I hope maybe through the technology that for those people who really don't have the time, they can feed and give some input. But definitely I'm appealing to persons to make use of the opportunity. Otherwise, it would be a wasted experience.
Indeed. Joe, do you want to say something?
Well, anytime I hear the word technology, I kind of get excited. But no, but I am really looking forward to the public consultation, and I'm really looking at the fact that so let's say, for example, even if we come to your community and you probably may not be able to get into the center, for example, because of some sort of schedule. You can't make time, for example. Now, I think through the use of the technology, you will still have an active say in the process, whether through our Facebook group or through our Twitter accounts or whatever. We are going to ensure that you still get a chance to air your concerns, to air your vision of what you see Grenada in the next 15 years.
So you really have a project where you have this consultation process, and then you seem to have a chunk of work. It was going to be some documentation for your committee. Yeah.
I would love to see an overflow of information. That would be a wonderful thing.
Just thinking about it.
Grenadians get involved.
It's a mammoth task.
Yeah.
We have someone on the line. Good morning. Welcome to The Point.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, very good program. And I support this initiative in terms of what's been said there 100% in terms of the long-term planning. But my question to your panel is that I desperately hope that, they will address, straight up, is that after 40 years of independence, and we are over $2+ billion in debt, how did we arrive at where we are today in terms of, putting these initiatives forward? 40 years, and look at our situation today. I mean, how do we evaluate those who have been at the helm, who have been the policy makers? How do we evaluate them, if in 2015 we are where we are today? Thank you.
Thanks, caller.
A very interesting perspective. And let me respond to it this way. And it's a very limited response. Right? One of the things that we are working on is what we call the State of the Nation as at the commencement of the plan. It's going to be comprised of two parts. One is a short narrative that describes what it is that we have gone through, experience, both positive and negative, in the last 40 years that have brought us to the place where we are now.
Right.
And then we support that now with some statistics and some economic and social data down the road, below that. So that would be our starting point. We could then, when we set the targets in the plan, you're measuring that in relation to where we started off. And therefore you can see what progress we're making. In addition to that, very important, within the PR function that we must and will engage in, we want to be able to bring to the public some details, regarding the justification for this plan, why it is that this thing is needed. The justification, the benefits that will accrue to the Ghanaian society as a whole for us implementing this plan, and then the question of what are the core values informing this plan. All of that we need to serve to the public before we get to the consultations. Right? So we are mapping these things. We have a lot of the raw material in place. All right, we are about to go in the marketplace to recruit to hire a communications provider so that we could execute these things. So we are
Wonderful.
taking this thing very, very seriously.
Yeah, sounds like it. Good morning. Welcome to The Point.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning to you and your guests.
Good morning.
I support the fact that we are going to have such a plan. I fully support it. But my question is, how accessible will these consultations be to the general public? Are we going to say that we are having consultations in some hotel 10 o'clock at night? How many persons will be there? And secondly, we have a situation in our country where politicians do not feel that they are obligated to answer the public. When we ask questions, they choose to answer us if they feel to. What is going to be, or will there be anything in place or put into that plan so that when we ask our politicians for answers, that they are compelled to give it to us? Thank you.
All right, thanks, caller.
I will try answering the first part and I'll leave the second part to Willie. Where would be consultations will be at parish level, and it will be like, for now I can't say specifically, but it definitely will be afternoons after work, maybe on a weekend.
Yeah,
but there will be a variety
yeah.
of ways of ensuring that we, maybe through the churches, because the churches are very much involved, and a Sunday afternoon meeting and so on. But it will be definitely at the
right
where the community is
it has to be accessible
in
order for it to be participatory
to meet the needs of
good.
And the second part of the caller's concern has to do with this question of the relationship between people and government, people and politicians. Again, as far as we are concerned as steering committee, the public must say what the public wishes to see or to have put in place regarding these things. So when we come to the parish and people are of the firm opinion, which is broadly shared, not a minority opinion, but a broadly shared view that we need to something should be put in place to not manage the politicians, but to have them accountable in particular and specific ways.
Just to curb their enthusiasm.
Then you put a thing and you write it in. Again, it might take us as far as the Constitution. It may very well, because this question about accountability of politicians primarily relates to politicians and government.
Right. But that would address the constitutional mandate question that caller had as well. Yes, it's quite a big task. And we have some able-bodied individuals, and I'm sure there's more that's not in the room. You mentioned your technical working group, and of course the other people who are involved in this process. It is exactly 10 o'clock, so it means that our time is done. Imagine that.
We'll be back, Brenda.
Yes,
There's a lot to discuss.
Please do. And I mean, this would take varying levels as people hear about it. The conversations would start, and through engagements like this, you would get a lot as well.
Yes, and the call to action is this: do what is right for the country that we love.
Indeed.
It's nation first.
I am a firm believer in the nationalistic approach. And let's see if we could get to that point again. All right. So just some parting words. Ms. Purser, start with you.
It's just an appeal to every citizen of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique to get involved, be involved in this for responsible citizenship.
So although Ms. Purser would have said for every citizen, I want to be specific to the young persons. This is an opportunity for us to air our views on how we see this plan is going to help build this country. It is also an opportunity to create opportunities for ourselves in the process. And I think being engaged in this plan really going to help us and help the country on the whole.
Indeed.
Yes, we spent 40 years chasing donkeys. It's time that we move to a higher place. Indeed. And so I want to reiterate the call that we do what is right for the country that we love.
All right. That's a great note to end on this morning. Do what is right for the country that we love. Thanks a lot. This morning we were speaking about the National Sustainable Development Plan. Members of the steering committee was with us. Mr. William Joseph, he is the deputy chair of the committee. Judd Cadet, he represents youth on the committee, and Mrs. Joan Purcell, civil society. Thank you so much, those of you who joined us via the internet, those of you out there in the diaspora, on TV, on radio, wherever you were this morning, especially those of you, the callers who participated. Thank you so much. Until tomorrow, I'm Brenda. So long.